Alright, welcome to Holes. This was a book both of us read as kids, and we came back to reading now. We both loved it back then, and we both like it now. What are your feelings on it now that you've read it as you're older?
Well, the one thing that got me was that there's a lot of repetition with a lot of, like, the no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing grandfather. That keeps coming up. And it's kind of childish, but it suits the book. So now that I'm older reading it, I'm not as into the book as I was before, because I'm not like, oh, the dirty, rotten, pig-stealing grandfather reference. It's just, I like the story, and I'm always going to like the story. But I think I definitely appreciated it more when I was little.
I appreciate it for different reasons now, but at the same level, I think. I really like the repetition. I mean, I think it's something that can kind of get underused in literature, and I mean, it's doing it for humor, so it works in its own little way. So I really don't mind that. What about its audience?
Well, this is definitely aimed at 12-year-old boys-ish. I mean, I'm not saying that a girl can't read it and enjoy it, because, well...
It's pretty much a universal book. But it's not aimed at the traditional young girl
Yeah,
audience.
It doesn't fall into the fairies and, oh my goodness, I have to go to my it's not prom, it's graduation, like something.
Yeah, it's not...
Grade 8 grad! There we go, that's what I'm looking for.
It's not specifically girly,
no.
Anyways. And there's no love interest or anything, which is a nice change.
It doesn't really need a love interest.
No, there's no need. It would have been superfluous.
But you do have your romance plot between Sam and Kate.
And that was beautifully done. I remember reading it as a kid, and it just stuck out to me as like nicely written. It really gave you an emotion, I found. It really made you feel their loneliness and just how much they kind of almost needed each other and grew into each other. And it did it in a very short period of time with like a minimal amount of words. And it was even like the repetition, like, I can fix that, which actually gave it its like really powerful almost feel. And you could just see it in your head. And it was, I loved that scene as a kid, and I still love it now. I think it's probably one of the best love stories I've actually found in literature ever. So.
And reading that now is one of the things that definitely holds up for the book. Because now that I'm older and I read it, I can get the whole tone of the town, that it wouldn't be considered appropriate by the town in the time period. And so having that knowledge going into it now, it makes it all the more heartbreaking, because you know that something's going to happen. And you love Sam, and you love Kate. Well, Catherine, she becomes Kate, but Kate's pretty awesome, and I'm rambling.
But the racism now?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of mirrored, interestingly, with the boys, because with the boys, you have no sense of it at all. Like, when you're first introduced to all of the characters, they've just been out digging holes, and they're covered in dirt completely, so Stanley can't tell
what race they are.
Yeah, so it's kind of like everybody's on equal footing at Camp Green Lake, which is kind of a coming full circle than what it used to be.
Yeah. The pathetic fallacy was done really well in the book, like how there's some wrong that needs to be righted, and Stanley ends up righting that by carrying Zero up the mountain and fulfilling the curse, having Kate's treasure being found, I don't know.
Finding the onions.
Yeah, I guess that kind of works into that as well, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the book...
Well, because I guess I'm about to get really analytical here, but Sam, he's the one who knows the onion thing, and, he's given, like, you gotta eat the onions. The onions will help, we didn't have my onion cure.
The yellow-spotted lizards.
The yellow-spotted lizards. And so when Sam dies, and the lake dries up, the one thing that Sam is keeping at bay kind of takes over, and with the loss of Sam, it's just another level of just the wrongness, because now they don't have the cure anymore because it kind of died with Sam.
Yeah.
And by refinding Sam in the onions...
There you go. And everything comes full circle in this book, which is really what makes it so impressive. You have Stanley's great-grandfather and him accidentally stealing the pig comes full circle with Stanley carrying the Zero up the mountain, and then there's a third plot.
Stanley gets robbed.
Stanley's
grandfather gets robbed by Kiss and Kate Barlow. So when they find the treasure, it says Stanley Yelnats on the case, so they get all
get the money. And even Stanley's plot kind of gets resolved because he's finally what's the word? He's finally not accused of
been proven innocent.
All right. He's finally been proven innocent of the crime he was accused of in the beginning of the story, which he had nothing to do with. And just everything just manages to come full circle in a nice, neat...
It's almost like a fairy tale in structure when you think about it, how everything happens exactly for a reason. And nothing, like every plot thread is tied up.
What I wanted to say was also... the camp suddenly becomes a Girl Scout camp.
Oh yeah, that wins. That just...
Oh yeah, so I thought that was really cute.
And clever, and like that's the one repetition that never really annoyed me. Just being like, oh, this is not a Girl Scout camp. Just because the guy, like Mr. Sir saying it, it's just like, whatever you say, Mr. Sir.
Yeah. So that was really funny, and
Marion.
It worked with his character.
Yeah,
Marion. Yes, Marion. Sir. We thought that was a brilliant name, Mr. Sir.
Mr. Sir.
It says authoritarian. It says I take myself too seriously. It says
not very creative.
Not very smart. Says it's perfect. It's brilliant.
The thing with the movie does Mr. Sir and Mom and the Warden perfectly. It's probably where the main strength is, just the casting for the characters and just
the way they actually end up laying out all the plots and stuff. It works really well in the movie, and that's what impressed me a lot.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about? I mean, the hints are kind of obvious.
Mm-hmm. But not if you're young.
No.
I didn't pick up on it when I was younger, I'm not gonna lie.
I don't remember if I did or not. I can put it together very, like, articulately now, reading it, because, like, you know, it talks about Madame Zeroni and the pig, and they're describing her and what she looks like, and then 2 seconds later it cuts straight back to Zero and describing him in the exact same way as it describes Madame Zeroni. So it's like, even like looking at it now structurally, it's almost there, like, word for word. Like, you could lay it out and it would be very obvious.
And probably the most obvious thing in the whole book that I just when I was reading it before, I just went, was Kate and Catherine. Just...
You didn't get that?
I didn't get that. That was just like a mind-blowing moment. It's like, oh, the school teacher! And now I look back and I'm just like, oh.
Oh, dear.
Oh, man.
I loved her character.
Yeah,
like, especially,
she was fun.
Like, her whole backstory as to her becoming an outlaw was actually amazing. And the fact that she only kissed the men she killed was just, like, I thought that was, like,
Clever?
That was very clever. It's kind of like a romantic heroine Wild West story that, you know, you didn't...
Got corrupted?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I didn't like the West as a kid, but I still liked her story.
And then there's the Warden, the other leading lady. And I have to say, I think she is probably the most complicated character in the whole thing. Because you can't help but feel sorry for her. Because all she really wants is to know what's inside that box. She had to spend every day looking for the stupid thing.
Yeah, it's pretty much driven her whole family's history.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Mad. Insane. Horrible.
Awful, yes. So, there's just so many layers to her when you really pick her apart. That was just fascinating.
She's like an onion.
Oh, you were waiting for that.
I was. But seriously, she's like an onion.
Oh, I want to play the Shrek clip right now.
Oh, I wasn't actually thinking about that.
Oh dear.
But, like, there are the layers to her character. Like, she is the warden. She isn't really a nice person, but at the same time, she is a nice person because when she thinks she's about to get what she wants...
She's kind of like, oh, I'll give you this. And she actually keeps her word a
yeah,
lot,
she does.
Which I found surprising.
Yeah, if she says she's going to do something, she's going to do it.
She's like, oh, if you find something, I'll give the day off. She gives you the day off. Like, verbatim. And then she'll be like, okay, well, you guys are going to have to dig really hard now, so I'm going to give you water and food so you can get the job done and you're not going to die.
I mean, of course there's the layer of, oh, she's totally just turning them into, like, digging monkeys, but at the same time, it's not like she's really killing them off per se. It's not.
No, she clearly needs her free labor, so she's going to keep them as happy as possible
in such a situation as they can be.
Yes,
in the sun.
I want to know how she got her licensing.
Yeah, I mean, how do you propose that? Walk up to someone and be like, okay, so here's my plan. I have this big stretch of land, and I want boys to dig holes on it because the time in the hot sun turn them good.
They'll never want to be back here again.
They'll build character.
I promise. You don't even have to check up on us. It's okay. I got this.
And just to have someone come up to you and say that, how
do you go? Sure, I will send you boys.
That sounds like a brilliant idea. I can get behind that. Here, let me sign the papers right now. Have fun.
I'm going to write a paper on this. This will, like, change my career.
There's two kind of sequels to this book.
Yeah.
There's Small Steps, and then there's the whole survival guide. Did you ever read the whole survival guide?
No, I did not.
There's actually this really cute story in the whole survival guide that happens sometime in the span of this book about one of the boys gets this brilliant idea of how they can make the showers last longer.
Okay.
And it's like, and they propose it to Mr. Sir, and Mr. Sir's like, sure, whatever, that sounds great. And then they see Mr. Sir a couple days later tinkering away at the showers, and they're like, oh,
he's gonna do it.
He's gonna do it. And, well, it ends up backfiring, and they get shorter showers because it's like, when you soap up, the water turns off.
That's evil.
So you can be in the shower for as long as you want, but you still get 3 minutes of water instead of 4. I don't know why I've decided to tell the story, but you
feel better now?
I feel so much better now that that's off my chest.
At least the sequel doesn't try and go back to Camp Green Lake. We haven't read it yet.
Nope.
I haven't read it yet. But it sounds interesting. It follows one of the boys.
I think it's either X-Ray or...
I know it's one of the black kids. I know that for a fact. But anyways, it's not important. One thing I did want to say about the racism. As a kid, I was kind of very aware of racism. Now, looking back, I do look at it differently. I do really pick up on things. Like you said, you didn't quite get it, but I don't know. It definitely resonated with me as a kid. And these days, I go back and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely, for sure. So it depends on, I guess.
I think the reason that I didn't really get it was because it's done so cleverly.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
And I guess I also was carrying around the child's innocent view on life, being like, why would they say no about Sam? Sam is awesome. He's a youngin' guy. I love Sam.
And then he's dead. Like all your favorite characters.
Okay, that scene in the movie with the yellow-spotted lizard that starts, like... oh, man! When it gets on the hind legs and runs.
That was clever, actually, for a movie. Yeah, that freaked me out.
I forgot that happened.
Yeah.
And I was just like... Oh.
Yeah, so they did some things really well.
Oh, yeah, they did. The movie was definitely very effective in telling the story.
Okay. Yeah, they were pretty good. I just love the way he describes them in the beginning too, talking about like the warden in the shade and how you're not supposed to go in the shade, and then he moves on to talking about how, the worst thing that can happen to you is actually being bitten by the lizard rather than like a rattlesnake, and just how you should just go lie in the shade because there's nothing anyone can do for you anymore.
Meanwhile, my childhood mind was like, I don't want to be bit by a rattlesnake. I don't want to.
Doesn't sound fun.
I mean, digging holes is bad, but rattlesnake.
And the lizards were cool too. I think there's a picture on the inside of this book of the lizards. So they have like a white tongue, you can kind of see, and black teeth.
And in the movie, they were more like ginormous bearded dragon things.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about the spots is they have 9 of them, but you can only see them when you get close enough for them to kill you.
Yeah.
Fun. So he does a really good job of creating his own little world and running with it.
And it actually sounds like the premise
sounds a little weird.
Sounds a little weird. But you know what? You can believe it. You can run with it.
And I studied it in grade school, but I don't think we actually got down to what was really good about this book and what it...
No. I read it. I didn't read it in grade school. I think my brother did, though. But I read it. One of my friends, recommended it to me because the movie was coming out. And they're like, oh, you have to read the book. And then I read the book, and my mom read the book.
My mom loves the book, too.
Yeah. And then we went and saw the movie in theaters. And yeah.
Yeah, my mom read it to my brother, I think, too. But anyways, I think that's everything.
Yeah, I think we just covered about everything there.
Mm-hmm. So, I know it's a little juvenile sometimes, occasionally, but it's definitely worth the read. It's definitely worth a good look.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, next week we delve into a subject that's a little bit personal for me.
It'll be fun.
Oh.
It's a great book. I love it. I think it's better than this.
You deserve to die a slow and painful death.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Souls emancipated from all you know. You got to go and dig those holes.